God never promised that we wouldn't face storms or trials. But what if I told you that we have been looking at storms and fearing trials for no reason? What if challenges were more than just things to get through? Today we're going to be looking at a few things that might just change the way you think. Good afternoon. Before we begin, I would like to have everybody take the Bibles, hold them up high. Yes? I like seeing the ones that glow. I remember Carl Lentz saying, "I don't respect you if your Bible glows." I completely disagree with that. I don't think it's about the format, I think it's about the word. So, we're going to go ahead and pray. God, thank you for your word. I pray that as I speak, that you write your words on our hearts, that we see a difference in our lives through our actions, through our faith. And ultimately, our lives are a tribute to who you are and the things you've done in our lives. Thank you, God, for everything. We love you. Now, over the years, I have known several friends of mine that have been marathon runners. They have enjoyed long-distance running. I don't understand why. I don't like taking the stairs personally, but these guys are into doing heavy, long-distance running. Now, when I've talked to them about their experiences, a lot of them have told me that there's this one moment which I found fascinating. It's called hitting the wall. Now, it's this moment where around the 21 mile mark, when you're right near the end, everything comes together. It's your body's exhausted, your mind is cloudy, your fears, your doubts, everything starts to pile up and work against you. And I found it fascinating because, to me, I love that. It's like in a good movie when you feel like the hero is going to be challenged and you know he's going to have to push harder than he's ever pushed before. And it's a common thread that I've seen in two stories we're going to be looking at today between James 2:18 through 26, referring to Abraham and Rahab. I love this definition I found online. One runner describes hitting the wall as this: "It feels like an elephant had jumped out of a tree onto my shoulders and was making me carry it the rest of the way in." Now, I believe it's only when we face these challenges that we see what we're made of. So today we're going to be covering 2 points for the rest of our time together. The first point is going to be storms are going to challenge our faith. I'll say it one more time. Storms are going to challenge our faith. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. It might be happening right now. I know personally it's definitely happening right now. We're going to go ahead and open up to James 2 verses 21 through 22. Just give me a couple of amens, raise your hands. I love it. It's nice everybody working through James because we're already there. So that's nice. Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. Now, last week I looked into a little more depth about Abraham and Rahab and their experiences. So I'm not going to go into full depth here, but I think it's important that the one thing I realized that through all the different commentaries, all the studying that we've been doing, is that not one person acknowledged the fact that, yes, they were tested. They didn't just have faith, they were tested. There was something that forced that faith to show itself. Now, with Abraham, God comes to him and says, "I want to see how much faith you have in me. I want you to take your son, I want you to sacrifice him to me as a sign of faith." It's that challenge, it's that initial go and do this that brings out the actions. Now, I think it's important because I've read this passage probably more times than I've read the Bible in general. And the one thing I'm realizing is that it's very easy to gloss over an experience like this. That Abraham was going to sacrifice his son. Even as a father, I read this, and it's hard to put that emotional attachment to what you're reading. But we're going to try to place ourselves in Abraham's shoes, okay? He's walking with his son. Now, his son is asking him, "But Father, what are we going to sacrifice? I see the knife. I see the rope. What are we going to sacrifice?" And to have to know in his head that I'm doing this for God. That my little boy is about to die as a tribute to my faith in God. The fear that must have been going through him. I get chills right now trying to imagine the pain that must have been in his heart, knowing that the son that he's been waiting for the one that he's been praying about. Everything that has been coming up to this point is about to be ended with one blow of a knife. And he's at the top of the altar. He's got his son Isaac tied, or not Isaac, he has his son tied up on the altar, and he's about to thrust the knife into him, and God stops him. He stops him dead. The relief he must have felt in that moment. The relief where he knew that his son was going to be spared. It's important to make that attachment to these characters when we read about them, because it connects us to what they were going through. This wasn't some easy, okay, go kill your son, and you know what, you're going to be considered righteous. That's all you got to do. No, it was his boy. It was his heir. Everything that he was going to leave behind was going to go to this one boy. It's important to him. So this is going to bring us to our next passage. It's going to be James 2, verses 25. Again, I don't really need to hear some amens. I know where you guys are at. So, in the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? Now, like we said last week, Rahab committed treason by hiding the spies, by lying to the guards, and hiding them up on the roof. But what would this have meant without the guards coming to her door? What would it have meant if the spies were there and she was hiding them and everything was done in secret? Would this passage have the effect that it has on us today? Think about that. Half the passages we read are based off the conflict that produces everything afterwards. It's not about just the faith, it's about the obstacles that come beforehand. In Rahab's choice, she's standing at a door. Now, this is a prostitute. We've already talked about the fact that she wasn't the highest social character that you could possibly find. But when she answers the door in fear, she has two options. She has a fear of God, or she has a fear of man. She has guards at her door questioning her about spies, knowing full well that they are in her house hiding. Her faith proved to be on God's side. She lied. She goes, no, I sent them off in another direction. I have no idea what happened. Maybe they came for some business. I don't know. But she lies. But again, it would have meant nothing without them coming to the door. That point of obstacle where she had to make a decision. Was her actions going to reflect her faith? So our second point that we're going to be looking at is going to be when our faith is tested, it produces the fruits of good deeds. Again, I'll repeat that. When our faith is tested, it produces the fruits of good deeds. It's in the same way when you work out. We've heard a couple people talk about when you work out, you build muscle. When you study, you get good grades. When you have faith, it needs to be tested to see if it produces the correct fruits, the correct actions. And now that we've read through Abraham's story and we've seen how Rahab reacted and their actions, we're going to be doing. We're going to be focusing on one point. Now, this is the one point that if you guys completely tune me out the rest of the time I'm talking, if you've forgotten everything I've said up to this point, this is the one key thing I want you guys to remember. This is that little bit of information that makes this whole thing worth it. That when our faith hits the wall, it's our next steps that produce the good deeds. When you're running, when you hit the wall, it's not the obstacle that's the hard thing. It's taking those next steps after that hard point. It's when your faith is tested and you push beyond it. That's when you see the fruits of your actions. That's when you see all that hard work, all the training that you've done coming together. That's what makes it worth it. That's when you see the muscle growth. That's when you see the faith and the actions it produces. Now, before I conclude, I actually have a short little interview / testimony that I want to share with you guys. It's cute. I think you guys will like it. It's cute. Hello, class. This is Anthony, and I am here with my beautiful wife. You can go ahead and begin. I'm going to start by asking you, are you doing this at your own free will, or are you being coerced in any way to do this testimony?
No, sir. Out of my own free will.
Okay. Our
first question is going to be, please state your name and who is your husband?
My name is Melinda Drake, and my husband is Anthony Drake.
Very good. It's 1 for 1. Okay. Out of all the men that you met before me, how many of them proclaimed that they were going to marry you? How many of them said that you were the one?
I can think of 7.
7?
Yes,
I
7.
mean, all your boyfriends or
No,
2 of them were
two out of 7
boyfriends.
were boyfriends? We had that before. Okay. The next question is, how soon after we started talking did I tell you that we were going to get married?
I believe it was 6 months.
Were we dating at the time?
No.
And roughly how many times did we break up over the amount of time that we were actually dating together? Ballpark. Throw it out there.
That was my bad.
A couple hundred times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
Can we
exaggeration.
say that we broke up right before I bought the ring, after I bought the ring,
Yeah,
before I proposed and after I proposed?
yeah. But
Okay.
that was my bad.
All right, what was the difference between all those other guys who said they were going to marry you and me who actually got to marry you?
Actually, bought me a ring taste.
Actually bought her the
Why was
ring.
that so important?
You shouldn't hear that.
Because you meant it. Or saying it, you actually really wanted it back.
And our final question is, this one's the hard one. This one is the one that's going to really make you think. All right, I want you to really focus on it. Who is your best husband?
Jesus and you, Anthony's right.
Wait, so you're saying I'm the best husband like in the entire
In the
world?
entire world.
Okay, that'll do.
When
All right, can I get back to the kitchen?
I actually got in trouble for that last comment. I'm not gonna lie, the whole get back to the kitchen thing.
This is Anthony and I.
My wife is an amazing cook though, so I'm not gonna lie, I do like her in the kitchen. The whole point of that testimony is that in James 2:18 through 26, he makes it very clear that words are meaningless. That it's the actions that actually speak louder than the words. Now, my wife, no lie, had 7 guys at some time in tell her, "You're the one, I love you, I prayed, God told me you're the one, we're gonna get married." 7 guys, and I actually got to meet a couple of them. I wasn't aware that they were the guys that had said that in the initial meeting, but afterwards I was brought in on the information. But there was one key thing. 6 months after I met my wife, I prayed and God told me that she's going to be your wife. And it's no exaggeration, we broke up literally hundreds of times. Literally, we had 6 months left into our wedding, she called off the wedding. And because of her own doubts and fears, and she takes full responsibility for it, which is nice. Because that's rare as a husband. And it's nice to have that on recording, I'm gonna tell you right now. But that's the thing, my faith was that I knew God said that she was gonna be my wife. I had faith in that. My actions were, I went out, I bought the ring, despite that she had just broken up with me. Despite that I knew she was going to break up with me again, because I know her very well. But it was through all those trials, it was through all those obstacles that I got to the point where, you know what, I didn't care about the circumstances. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about how many times she was gonna break up with me and I never want to see you again and the whole spiel. It was about the fact that I knew what God told me. My actions reflected my faith in what He said. So, I have a challenge for you this week. As I've said before, there are going to be walls coming your way. As we run our marathon of our faith and our relationship with God, things are going to happen. We're going to get to a point where we are exhausted physically, emotionally, intellectually. It's going to happen if it's not happening right now. But the important thing to remember is that it's a good way to measure where we are in our faith with God. Think about it, it's a measuring stick. Your actions are going to show you where you stand with God. It's not a bad thing. We've seen Abraham, he does it several times. God gives him a challenge, and he failed. He lied to the Pharaoh and said that, no, that's not my wife, she's my sister. Take her, it's fine. You know, I mean, he failed. Horribly he failed. But in the end, it was those trials, it was those obstacles that made him fight harder. It's what pushed him to a point where he was willing to sacrifice his son. So as these walls come your way, as these challenges come your way, look at it as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to measure where you're at, and to conquer something, to grow stronger, not just physically, but spiritually. This is our last class together, and I personally just want to thank all of you. This has been an extreme blast. I really have enjoyed doing this with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you more classes, and who knows, maybe we'll be preaching in the same church one day, or I'm sure our paths will cross again. But I just want to thank you all for listening, and God bless.
Amen.
Good job, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you.